There are two video games that I have spent my entire life dreaming that one day I would be able to recreate. The first is Harvest Moon Back to Nature, but Concerned Ape kinda already beat me to that one. The second, however, is a lesser known title called Dokapon Kingdom. And as far as I can tell, no one else is chomping at the bit to make a game inspired by this little guy. If you aren't familiar with Dokapon Kingdom, then the simplest way that I can describe it is Mario Party meets Final Fantasy. The game loop is simple. Players take turns moving around the board, all the while landing on tiles that will trigger some sort of event. Through these events, you gain items and equipment, you capture towns to increase your weekly salary, you fight monsters to increase your level, and then you use that increased level to bully your friends and stop them from getting their levels. There is no mercy in Dokapon Kingdom. Most of the mechanics in the game are just glorified rock, paper, scissors, which may sound boring, but I assure you, it's not. The RNG, you see, is what keeps the emotions high. And to say that Dokapon Kingdom is an emotional experience is an understatement. There is anger inside of you that you don't even know exists unless you have played this god-forsaken game. The back of the box even says, "The Friendship Destroying Game." It wears it like a badge of honor. So why would I ever want to make a game like that? It's a question I've been asking myself my entire life, and yet, here we are. This is Devlog 0, for the game that I have codenamed Project Gutz. That's enough. Let's get started. First, I identified 3 basic pieces of functionality from Dokapon that I could easily implement. 1. A player that we can control. We'll start with just one, but we'll add multiplayer in later, because, that's required. 2. A game board. This consists of tiles that the player can move to, and then certain things can happen. 3. Rolling. When a player's turn starts, they have to roll a die to see how far they can go. And that's it. Let's start with the player. Perfect. He's gorgeous. Did I mention this game is going to look like ass for a bit? I want to get it working first, and then we can make it pretty. Next, the little guy needs a game board to walk around it. I felt like the easiest way to do this was by using a grid, so BAM! I downloaded ProGrids and got to work. I made one giant green square, that's the grass, and then I placed 2 basic tiles onto it. Made them yellow for fun, and would you look at that? He's off to a great start, folks. Next, I added these little nodes to each side of the tile and slapped a raycast on each of them. These laser beams are going to be looking for other tiles, and if they hit one, then the player will know they can move to that tile. Look at the little weasel go. Oh, also, I used Dutween to move the capsule easily between the tiles. If you haven't heard of Dutween, I suggest you look it up. It's a tool that gives you all sorts of simple movement options, and they usually only take adding 1 line of code to actually work. I also added basic input using the new input system. I'm not going to get into all of that here, but if that's something you are interested in, leave a comment down below and maybe I'll make a video about it. So I have a player and tiles that they can move between. Next, I want to make a sandbox for them to move around in, and the Dokapon prologue area seems like the perfect place to start. Because of ProGrids, I can easily put the tiles down and they'll move an equal distance apart from one another. After several tedious minutes, we're done! Look at that, isn't she a beaut? Alright, I also lied. I'm making these tiles look slightly less bad. Oh, also, I added a boolean to quickly toggle the tile lasers on or off. This allows tiles to be side by side, but still stop the player from moving to them, and it also allows us to easily make one-way tiles. Alright, everything is coming together. The last thing I need to make is some dice to roll. And by dice, I mean a console log, and by roll, I mean print a number that we can use. So I created a dice class that will randomly pick a number between whatever range you set. I set 1 to 6. I also added logic for rolling multiple dice. Lastly, I gave it the singleton pattern to make it globally available for any game object because, if the shopkeeper wants to roll the dice, then by all means they should be able to do so. Then I just decrement the number every time the player moves to a tile, and when they hit 0, voila! They get to roll again and do it all again. Easy peasy. And we're done, right? It's that easy. There's more. There's a lot more. See, if the player moves forward and then moves back, it decrements their roll by 2, but that's the tile they started on. It shouldn't decrement anything. So if it's a previous tile, we can just increment that number instead. And that'll be an easy enough fix, but wait. Also, what about the one-way tiles that we talked about earlier? Their logic actually doesn't apply if the player hasn't committed to a tile, and players committing to a tile isn't even logic that I've added in. And what about circles? Even though you've gone around in a circle back to a previous tile, that's going to cause the game state to start incrementing your roll, even though it should be decrementing, because even though it's a previous tile, it's actually a new tile because you've gone around in a circle, and now you can go around in the circle forever because it just keeps adding 1 infinitely. Oh my god, I didn't even think about we're only using the arrow keys to navigate. It doesn't even tell you what tiles you can move to like it does in Dokapon. We should be able to see what tiles the player can actually move to without actually having to navigate there. That's going to require player pathing for each potential tile that the player can land on, and then with really high rolls, that can be hundreds of destination tiles that the player can go to and thousands of path tiles that the player can path to get to that specific tile, and that's a huge rabbit hole that I'm not willing to go down in this video. But I'm pretty happy with what we got. Next time we're going to go into all that tile logic and how I'm going to handle that, and we'll take it in stride. For now, I'm going to bed. You should get some rest too. And hey, if you liked the video and want to support my game endeavors, then be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Good night, everybody, and I will see you in the next one.